They should be fixing this one pretty soon. Should be worked out. Got it. Raymond, if you need any help, just let us know.
Yeah, I'll help you. Yeah, don't touch it.
Are we ready? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raymond Gregory. I'll be acting as your MC this evening as Mayor Pro Tem. In the mayor's absence, I will call this study session for the City of Cathedral City City Council for Monday, October 6th, 2025, and ask for a roll call.
Councilmember Carnevale?
Present.
Councilmember Lamb? Here. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory?
Here.
Mayor Ross? Let the record show Mayor Ross is absent. Do I have a motion to excuse?
The last correspondence I received said Mayor Ross is recovering from a medical appointment, so I will make a motion to excuse her for tonight. Do you have a second?
Second that.
Okay, we'll use the system. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gregory and a second by Councilmember Gutierrez. Please vote. Councilmember Carnevale, do you see the vote option? And motion carries, all ayes.
All right, thank you so much. The next item on our agenda is agenda finalization. Are there any changes? City Manager?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Any council? No one? All right, then we'll go ahead and continue on. The next item on our agenda is public comments. This is the opportunity for people to make public comments on items that are not on the agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the statement on participation.
Public comment is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are within the City Council's jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification. The mayor may also request a brief response from staff to questions raised during public comment or request that a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. If you're a member of the public and you wish to address the City Council, please complete a request to speak form available at the entrance and submit it to the city clerk. You will be called upon at the appropriate time. If you have materials or other items to present to the members of the city council, please do not approach them. All materials shall be presented to the city clerk for distribution. Mayor Pro Tem, we did not receive any requests to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on items not on the agenda, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next item, we'll start into our study session. The first item there, item A, is the Cathedral City Community Center feasibility study update by Group 4 Architecture Research. City Manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. So this is an update to the City Council that's going to be presented by Group 4 Architecture. Group 4 was the firm selected to conduct this assessment for the city, and staff have been working with them since we began the engagement and have been making progress. Don Merks is here from Group 4, who is going to be doing the presentation. We wanted to take this time kind of early on to talk to the council, let you know where we're at with our analysis so far, and to get any feedback from the council as we progress forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Don.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, Don Merkis with Group 4. My pleasure to be here. And so, page down. Our agenda, and there's a lot of information here, so I apologize. I'll go fast. You had it ahead of time. If we had detailed questions, we can come back. I don't want to dwell on things that you've already are familiar with. But we are going to go over our work plan, give you an update on the needs assessment, review our site assessments, which are all in progress, look at the site analysis. We have some preliminary cost information, and then talk about next steps.
All right, and we didn't have this ahead of time, so
Oh.
you may take your time. We
I
talked
get to
about
take more
We
time.
talked about it a little bit ahead of time, but yes, so
Thank
take your
you
time.
for correcting me on that. Excellent. So basically, our schedule is pretty efficient. We've started in August, and we're looking at trying to get back to you with our final recommendations in December, potentially the presentation of that information in January, just because of the holiday schedule. We've been doing community outreach, really doing the assessments first, looking at the community needs as well as the site assessments. We have started some initial information on cost information as well as funding strategies, and then all looking at wrapping this up towards the end of November, December with recommendations. The community engagement that we're doing includes 2 rounds of community engagement. We're about to conclude the first round in the next week or so, and then we'll come back and do another round of an engagement that is going to be end of October to the first part of November. Just trying to get the community to weigh in on the different needs, their priorities, and give us guidance and design values. We've been working extensively with our project management team, meeting every other week and getting really good input and guidance, as well as working with stakeholders. So I'm going to summarize all of that in just 1 minute.
All right, so let me ask while you're on that section, is there a point where you'll also be sharing this with our Parks and Community Events Commission and getting their formal input?
Excellent question.
So we have invited the chairs from those commissions to be part of this discussion. We certainly can work with getting on the agendas for the commission to have kind of a more formal presentation to get their input for both PAC and PACE.
So as we're looking at the needs assessment, just starting with the very big picture, kind of looking at national planning standards, then diving in a little bit more to the Pacific Southwest. As we're looking at national planning standards, what we've summarized is typically 1 community center for every 31,600 residents. Cathedral City right now is 51,400 population. As we're looking nationally, rec centers, gym occur about every 32,800 with community centers for 31,600 population. And just trying to kind of put it into context, we have planning standards then that are derived in the range of 0.75 to 2 square feet per resident. And one of the things that really does change is when you're in a climate like Southern California, it's drastically different than if you're in Colorado or Washington State or Idaho, right, where the cold weather really precludes a lot of outdoor activity. And so when we're working with communities that are in warmer climates, typically it is less square footage per capita. Just for reference, if you're looking for a full-service community/senior center, the range is typically 20 to 35,000 square feet, and that really gives you the full complement of spaces to support multi-generational programs and activities. If you want to add recreation component to that, that bumps it up a little bit to 30 to 45,000 square feet. And that bump is predominantly for that active recreation. Gymnasiums typically range from 8 to 12,000 square feet, depending if you want junior high, high school, how many cross courts. And then you typically would add on fitness components to that, like cardio exercise, dance rooms. And that's kind of what pushes you up to that higher square footage. When we look at your comparable communities, we've identified square footage, population, both 2024, 2040 for Indio, Coachella, Desert Hot Springs, and then we've summarized Cathedral City kind of down on the bottom. The light orange is today's existing square footage, and then the proposed is kind of the range, adding the square footage that we're looking, kind of starting to hone in and target on for the recommendation for Cathedral City. So at Indio, with their current population, they have about 1.3 square foot per capita, projecting their population out to 2040, that becomes 1.1. Then Coachella, currently 0.6. With no added facilities in the next 15 years, that would drop down to 0.2. We did not do extensive research to see if they are planning new facilities. It's just a direct tabulation there. Desert Hot Springs, currently at 1.1, with the projected population jumps out to 0.7. And so right now, I think one of the reasons we're doing this study is to identify the need and the opportunity for a community recreation center. So right now, with no facilities, we're at 0. As we're looking at proposed, right now we're thinking in the range of 0.4 to 0.9 square foot per capita. And then projected out, that turns out to be 0.3 to 0.7. And that does not always have to be in one facility, right? You can have multiple smaller community centers, a rec center and a community center. You can meet this need with shared facilities. A lot of times communities will partner with middle schools to get the gymnasium component, because that is a large square footage, or other types of potential partnerships. So that's all draft and for your food for thought. As we're looking at community input to date, first of all, we should give staff a big hand. Amazing work with the community so far. We have done a lot of outreach, and I'm going to summarize that in a minute. What you're seeing on the bottom here is just a wordle of some of the most common themes that we've heard from the community input, with activities, space, place, classes, Cathedral City, fitness. So far to date, we have 610 respondents, including in-person outreach as well as online. It does not include the image that you see on the top here is the middle school that we were at this afternoon, actually for 3 lunches, 1,000 students in 2.5 hours. It was very intense, but we did get that age group, which you'll see in a minute was kind of missing from the survey so far. The online survey we have up and running, self-serve kiosks both at the senior center and the library, and now it's been moved to the Boys and Girls Club. Hispanic Heritage Month block party on 9/20, Parents' Night at James Workman Middle School, and then the middle school that we did this afternoon. And then we'll be at the movie tomorrow night at the amphitheater, and we'll also be at one of the local markets during lunch hour.
Can I stop you there for a second? Now, I did speak to our city manager, and I mentioned that a great opportunity also to get input from our residents is our Field of Dreams, which is a sports center,
Yes.
softball center. There's a lot of locals that participate, adults mainly. So I mentioned that maybe you can have a kiosk there or do something with them as well. Reach out to them.
Yes, that's an excellent suggestion. And we can certainly look at those opportunities and kind of overlay of dates, potentially more for the next round of outreach as we're looking at updating this. But we may have a chance to get a connection with an email blast to those participants and get that online survey to them before we close the one we're currently in. So we will make that effort. So thank you. So what have we heard so far? So the 2 questions we're kind of asking are intended to be complementary. The one thing is we're asking the community what their top priorities for activities are. And then separately, we're asking them what their top priorities are for community spaces. And you can see there's a bit of correlation between the 2, but not exact correlation. There is some deviation there. So as we're asked for top activities, we have fitness, cardio, exercise, court sports, culinary arts, and the middle school kids voted for that highly today as well, which was very fascinating. They also like the crafts and do-it-yourself, exercise, and then there's a bit of a shift to the middle group, as you can see. Goes to dance, performance, lifelong learning, gaming and music, and theater. As we look at the top priorities for spaces, we have fitness and dance and gymnasium, so those are all up there in the top 2, similar to the activities. But then we have community hall and kitchen. Arts and crafts was there, teen zone specifically, And this is without a lot of teen input to date. Musical arts studio, early childhood recreation, and technology lab. And so just kind of the top 2/3, there is a nice overlap, but there is some unique aspects in either of those. I will point out that as we're planning for facilities today, one of the big goals is to plan for change. What we're doing today is not what people will be doing tomorrow, and these facilities should be lasting us 40 to 50 years, so they need to adapt and be flexible. Other things that we've heard in terms of goals, we have a board where they can write in their goals, as well as the online survey. The big themes: inclusivity and welcoming, youth and teen support, multi-generational and family-oriented, recreation, fitness and sports, arts, cultural, creativity, community gathering and social connection, education and enrichment, equity and accessibility, health, wellness, basic needs, and then economic and civic role. So who have we heard of so far? And the information we're getting demographically is basically from the online survey. We are doing color-coded dots for the different age group for the in-person, but it's just a little bit more challenging to be accurate with the in-person. And so we're trying to do a lot of the high-tech with the online survey and then supplement with the high-touch with the in-person kiosk. And so who we're hearing from so far is adult residents, 56%. You can see the youth at only 6%. That's going to shift after we count the 600 dots we got today. So I warn you, this is as of yesterday. Non-identified was 15%, teens 8%, and then adult non-residents 15%. You can see in terms of the breakdown for the age groups again, there is a nice, for the adults, there's nice grouping here with about 1/3 for all the different groups we have for the age from 26 to 64, 75 plus was 8%, 18 to 25, 3%. And then the ethnicity, about 44% have been white Caucasian and 39% Hispanic. And so the online survey, the kiosk, everything we've been trying to do bilingual and support participation by the whole community. Stakeholder participants, very generous in their time. Again, really trying to reach out to your current partners as well as your future partners, get their input, suggestions, and comments as we're going through this process. We've engaged the library, Riverside County, as well as the Boys and Girls Club, the planning commissioners, Parks and Community Events Commissioners, Parks and Community Events Commissioners, as well as Finance Advisory Committee. I think Ann went to them with the presentation. The middle school, senior center, what we've called Measure W supporters, Hispanic community member. We've reached out to the tribe, as well as performing arts and program and events. And so really, everyone's been very generous with their time and given us lots of great input. What we've summarized here is kind of the high-level information that they've been sharing with us. The need for a strong social community hub, that it be affordable, bilingual, multi-generational, and inclusive, designed for the climate, make sure we provide cooled indoor spaces as well as the shaded outdoor spaces. They would like it to be a culturally distinctive landmark, and look for those opportunities for the synergy. The co-location, being close to, really being able to build on other programs, services, activities to make that 1 + 1 = 3. As we look at desired amenities, flexible, multi-use, rentable event space, I will say the large meeting room was identified probably throughout as a need from almost all of the groups. Yeah, someplace that they could have special events or community events, program rooms, maker spaces, indoor track, recreation options, sports courts, gym. Gym at the middle school was very big vote getter today. very popular. Resiliency Resource Center, food bank distribution, health clinic, volunteer hub, and pet-friendly spaces. So as we're looking nationally and looking at like what are the best practices, current trends in recreation community center design, I will say that community driven is one of the most important ones. So check that box for Cathedral City, great job. Multi-generational, accessible to all, having a wide variety of recreation activities. The social hub is something that we didn't have in recreation community centers when I was growing up. They're a lot more institutional. They had the program spaces. They didn't have those social spaces. This is a big change, having that community living room, that place where people can come, bring their laptop, meet their friends, come in from the heat. That is a big change, and it's one of the most popular places we're seeing at recreation community centers now. Multi-use and adaptable, sustainable, efficient operations, and that resiliency resource center with power outages, heat waves, having a place for connection, having a place to recharge your batteries, your power, information distribution, resource distribution. These are all things our community centers and recreation centers are being designed for. Not going to go into the multitude of program opportunities, but there are many. Just kind of cover it here as we're looking at the children, opportunities for learning, developing social skills, growing, playing. Youth is connection, collaboration, and innovation, as well as playing and learning, even though the teens or the middle school kids did not put program spaces or classroom spaces on their votes today. Young adults meet, gather, innovate, connect, and play. Adults meet, exercise, gather, train, educate, collaborate. And then seniors gather, educate, collaborate, grow, express, and learn. And so, jumping into the next portion is site assessments. Should we pause here for any questions?
Council, do you have any questions that haven't been asked? As far as what they're looking at as the needs? All right. Well, then let's jump into sites.
Okay. So when we look at sites, there's criteria that we want. Just like as you're planning any type of facility, making sure we're locating it in a good location to meet those needs is critical. And so as we're looking at Cathedral City and we see kind of the more linear city, what we've identified on this maps are existing facilities that support arts and culture, recreation, and school. And you can see here, we've got those color-coded. The orange are arts and culture from the library, the senior center, the community amphitheater, and the repertory. And then we have parks in green, as well as the Boys and Girls Club. And then the last thing is we have the high school in purple on this map. So just kind of giving you a general overlay as we're looking at the city, and then diving in a little bit more. These are the sites that have been identified primarily by our project management team, which is your city, interim city manager, as well as the department heads and our project manager that we're working with. The potential sites that have been identified, number 1 is the old Walmart building. 2 is the Burlington building. 3 is the city-owned site near the amphitheater, which is partially city-owned. 4 is the library, Cathedral City Library, which is a city-owned site. And then a city-owned site across from the Salvation Army, which I believe actually has 2 parcels. And then the site across from City Hall, which is also city-owned. And then a site which is in the Uptown Village site on Date Palm, and that is not city-owned. So it's interesting when we look at our next map here, we've actually put even more information, layered additional information on here. And the orange boxes, which read pretty predominantly here, are basically your census tracts and your population per area. In addition to that, we've put the parks in green. We've put additional schools on this, what you can see the red with the book. We've identified private schools with smaller dots. And then we've identified our sites with the red stars. We also want to look at accessibility. We want to look at pedestrian, bicycle, vehicular access. We want to look at the surrounding community and how easy it is for your community to get to the site and to use the site. And so our major thoroughfares are shown in the purple. And then we've also got the bikeways shown in an orange solid line for existing and dashed for proposed. We've got public transit on here as well. And just trying to layer all this information on here, so when we look at the sites and we use our evaluation criteria, we have the information available to us. Lots going on here. And we do have this up as well, and we can come back to this as we're talking about the sites if we need to. So I mentioned evaluation criteria when we're looking at the sites, what makes an ideal location for a community recreation center. We have identified the criteria, and we have been working on this, and all of this is a draft and ready for your input and refinement. So please don't consider any of this complete, but we do identify what we call prerequisites. And the prerequisites are that we're suggesting that they be available, meaning that you could either purchase them, lease them, or you own them. And then we have capacity, and we want to make sure the sites that we're looking at are of sufficient size to meet the need for the square footage, as well as the parking and any outdoor amenities. And then the zoning. And zoning is not always set in stone. And there is one site that does not have the appropriate zoning right now, but the planning department in discussion with them has said that that could be changed, that that is actually something that could be amended. And then the cost. We want to make the recommendation something that is attainable, something that you can afford, and maybe not build all at once, but over time in a phased approach, either a single facility or multiple facilities. And so that is definitely one of the prerequisites. And then additional information or criteria that should be considered is accessibility, economic impact, synergy connectivity, and that ability for those outdoor amenities to complement the indoor spaces.
Can you go back to the previous slide, please?
Yes.
Now, when we talk about this slide, one of the things that you probably have not heard of is there's a church out here on the corner of 30th and Daypalm called Northgate. Now, they have a certain amount of space that they have in the past offered to the city for free, as far as I heard, to be used for a community or recreation center.
They wanted things as far as their ability to use it, preempt, that kind of thing, but that would have to be worked out.
Right, it's just something to explore.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so maybe you can add that as a potential site. Of course, like you mentioned, it's just conversation right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the city manager, and it seems very reasonable for us to do investigation and research on that, and definitely be able to bring it back if it's viable or explain why it was not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good suggestion.
Thank you.
Now's the time to bring it up, right? We do not want to get to the end of the study and say, well, did we think of this?
I don't know, you're going to get more into the sites, but does anybody else have a site that they had in mind that they don't see marked here?
I do. Yeah. It's always been a special place, I'm sorry, for a lot of kids, but our Desert Keating Soccer Park, it's a huge piece of property. I don't know how large. John, do you know how many acres that Desert Keating Park is? Does anybody know?
I think they mentioned it was 17 acres or something.
How many?
Somewhere. 17 acres, maybe that was in another
17 acres, and
document.
there's a whole lot of property there. And I'm all for soccer. I mean, my kid played soccer from kindergarten all the way through high school. But I think there's enough room there where you could maintain soccer parks and ballparks and a community center. And that is city-owned property, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be something to look at. I don't know that's my district, and I don't know what the residents around there would feel about having it there. But there would be ample parking, street parking, and public parking as well. And as far as AYSO, I know maybe they have a contract with us, and
They're under contract with DRD now, so they're working directly with DRD for the scheduling of the soccer fields.
oh, okay, so that going over to DRD, is that throwing a monkey wrench on that?
No, because ultimately this center would also be operated by
Okay,
DRD.
good call.
But just clarifying, so you're looking at potentially taking away some of the open green space and using that for,
Either all of it or some of it. Yeah, that's not my, decision, whatever they come up with. Square footage, I like the idea of the senior center, the big hall, and then room to add on for recreation. After that, kind of step-by-step phases, maybe do it in 2 or 3 phases for financial reasons instead of laying out a whole lot of money, because it's a work in progress. But that was just something I wanted to put out there.
Yeah.
And I think that should be looked at. And,
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
And
All right.
I just wanted to say, I think that's I had thought of that, and I think it's a great suggestion because the location is perfect. It seems to me perfect, that it's accessible to so many,
It's actually quite near, so I'm not looking district by
but
district.
it's, you know-
But it's right now, to the north of it is empty, it's dirt and it's tribal, so I wouldn't say it's perfect.
Yeah,
but-
so it's located, this is what you're talking about right here, right?
But before I was interrupted, I wanted to say that it had signals, and we're in the process of a pavement management plan that's going to be redoing many of the streets around there. So the accessibility and the bike lanes make it a desirable, one of several, but a desirable location. And I also wanted to just be reminded of the 2 city-owned lots by the Salvation Army. You said there were 2 parcels. What is the combined acreage? And I couldn't read it because my eyes
It's
aren't
okay.
that great.
We're going to get to that
Okay,
slide in a
got
minute,
it.
but I believe we just looked at it on the boards, and I think one is just over 2.5 acres, and the other one was like 3.5 acres.
Okay, that's what I meant.
And
thank you.
just for frame of reference, like a 25,000 square foot building with, I would say, ample parking is probably going to be about 2.25 acres. And that's with outdoor space, shade, bioswales, just generally speaking. Okay, ready to push on? Excellent. So we reviewed the site criteria, evaluation criteria. We have evaluated with the project management team each of the sites. In terms of the color coding, when we've used green is good, orange is potentially challenging, and the rust color is just kind of challenging. And these are really, should be taken as relative to each other, right? We're trying to grade them relative to each other, not in the whole world of 360 degrees from worst to best, right? Because this is the database we're working with. When we're looking at the cost, it is a little bit more interesting because when we're looking at the cost, if we're looking at purchasing the cost, we're using $3 signs. So our range for the dollar signs is 0 to 3. And if we have existing infrastructure like parking lots, power, utilities, that's going to be, but the parking lot needs improvements because it's old and cracked, that'll be $1 sign. If it's an unimproved site, that would be $3 signs. And you can't really, the challenge is you can't look at the infrastructure cost and compare it to construction cost and say it's the same dollar signs, right? Because our construction cost dollar signs are going to be much more expensive than our infrastructure. But we're just trying to give you a frame of reference between each other. And so if it's an existing building and it needs to be renovated or repurposed, we're using $1 to $2 signs. Pretty much across the board because we haven't done any of the detailed analysis of these buildings. Once you change use of a building, you may trigger code compliance, And if we have to bring the entire building portion we're using up to current code, it's going to be more expensive than if we're just doing like a tenant improvement refresh. And so that's kind of the information between the $1 sign and the $2 signs. If we're building new, that would be the $3 signs. Okay, so we're just trying to give you a grading system, but not die in the details, if you will. So as we're looking at our site option 1, the old Walmart building, availability we've shown as yellow, just because potentially it could be challenging because it's not city-owned and it's contingent on the parcel being available. The capacity is very adequate. It has lots of parking. Currently in discussion, I believe there's 24,000 square feet actually available to lease. The realtor in discussions, there had been other spaces that are in negotiation, but currently there was still 24,000 square feet available to lease, or as of our discussion a couple weeks ago.
And actually, there has been one update to that the developer, the broker we were speaking to, the potential tenants right now, that deal has fallen through. So at the moment, all of the available space is available.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of moving target there. And then future expansion, the nice thing with the lease space in a bigger building like this is you lease a smaller amount initially, and then as you have more opportunity to grow, you can lease adjacent space and expand into it. And so that definitely is an opportunity. And then the zoning, it would be allowed. We've got the land as $3 signs just because of the cost, either purchasing or leasing. So when we get to our cost model, we've actually taken leasing out to 30 years, and we've taken an average cost per square foot, and we have escalated it. But as I mentioned earlier, these facilities typically for a public facility are planned to last 40 or 50 years. When I took that lease out to 40 or 50 years, it became cost prohibitive. But just probably too much detail, sorry. And so just in terms of location, we've got for driving, it's a green. For biking, walking, we put a little bit more challenging. Public transit, definitely nice and accessible. Economic impact, definitely would make an improvement economically to fill the space and have the vitality there. Closer to schools, commercial, good. No existing parks close by, so that synergy with park and rec opportunities, not so good. And residential, it is closer to the northern population, but not the most central. And then outdoor amenities, just by the nature of a commercial building and the repurposing, it doesn't have a lot of outdoor space that we could make an extension to a community room for that outdoor dining or an outdoor play yard for the kids' space or things like that. All right, are we taking too long on these? Okay, so the old Burlington building has come up many times and many people have mentioned it in addition to our project management team. Again, the availability, potentially challenging. Site capacity is good, building capacity is good, future expansion is again gold with the possibility to lease additional space. Zoning is good. Our land costs, we have the $3 signs because it's either lease or purchase. Infrastructure is there, but the parking lot requires improvement. And then the construction cost ranges from the $1 to $2 signs, not just knowing the level of renovation that would be needed. Accessibility is green. Biking, walking, planned bikeways, but no existing. Public transit, good. Economic impact, good. Schools, good. Commercial, it is close to commercial area, but one of the things you'll see us mentioning here is the cannabis component, and there is in your policy adjacency to the cannabis is not allowed. Anne's going to have to help me here.
There are some distance requirements between cannabis facilities and schools and recreational type facilities, and we currently, there is a dispensary across the street. Yeah. So just as we've been looking at different sites, we're again looking at, what are existing issues, that would potentially conflict with this use, the zoning, and what are opportunities.
Yeah, Thank you. And then the closer to the senior center, but relatively far from other parks for the park and rec opportunities. And residential, we've noted, is less central. And then again, the same challenge with the outdoor amenities as with the previous number 1 option. The city-owned parcels on the map here are identified as parcel A and B. And neither of them are large enough for a sizable community center with parking and outdoor amenities. But there is a Site C that is in the middle of the two. And I know the city has discussed purchasing that parcel at some time just because of its adjacency to the amphitheater and other city amenities. And with that parcel, it would be combined size of about 2 acres. And so we've noted availability as gold, site size as gold, because you would have to acquire that third site, and then it is still on the smaller side. The existing buildings would not be able to be reused. It would be too expensive to renovate. It'd be replace. Future expansion, potentially if we go to 2 stories on a site that's 2 acres. When I mentioned the 2.5 acre site, that's single story. So there is potential to go vertical and be more efficient on our site. And then the zoning is a checkbox with the green. The land, $3 sign because of purchase. Infrastructure, single dollar sign because there is utilities and connections there. And then construction costs with new construction is $3 signs. Driving and parking, lots of parking at the city parking garage, but there were some traffic concerns. Biking is a check mark. Public transit is good. Economic impact was good. Not so close to schools, so we've shown it as orange. And commercial is gold near the Arts and Cultural District. However, it looks like there is a cannabis dispensary within proximity as well. And then it's green because of the adjacency to the amphitheater, the parks, the dog park, pickleball courts, and Cathedral City Lawn. And less central for residential. And outdoor amenities, I would suggest maybe we change that to green with the amphitheater there, but I believe the amphitheater is closed unless it's being programmed right now. So I think that's why we probably put it as gold.
It's not supposed to be. And the dog park and the pickleball courts, they don't exist yet, but they're on
their way. Okay. Thank you. Cathedral City Library is a city-owned site. The county is running the library, and then we have Big League Dreams maintaining the landscape and parking, and also leasing the adjacent baseball park. The library, in discussions with them, have seemed to indicate that there is some space within the library that is not utilized as well and may be available for renovation. The parking limitations during peak use events is challenging. The building's 20,000 square feet. If it was to have a future expansion, we'd have to reconfigure the site, which in our initial studies, it looks like we could get a 10 to 15,000 square foot addition to the library building. And then we would need to reconfigure additional portions of the site for parking. Land cost is $0, infrastructure $1, construction cost. If it's a renovation with an addition, that's why we have the $1 sign to $3 signs.
How much space would the library need to continue its operation?
Good question. We would have to do more investigations into that. There would be an opportunity for some shared space. I'm going to grab my water if that's okay.
The other thing that if this was the selected site, there are synergy opportunities if it was sort of operated both as the library and the community center, just for kind of amplifies the use of the facility, having both sort of an operation. It seems like that's not an unusual model in some communities to have those kind of joint uses of a facility. If this becomes more of a desired location, we would certainly explore with the library what is the actual footprint that they think they need to sort of separate those uses out.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap in the program spaces, like the technology lab or robotics lab, makerspace, the program room. A lot of communities, it's considered actually ideal if we can co-locate recreation centers, community centers, and libraries.
Yes. Well, to me, this space is interesting because you can't understate the connection with the library, but also with Big League Dreams there, which technically is city-owned. I don't know how many, we still got a while on their lease, but I mean, 5 more years, is that it? Oh, it will very soon be fully city-owned and available for reconfiguration there. And then the high school being there with the swimming pool that we currently use. But also, we can't understate, because it says green, but if you've ever tried to use that site during not just peak times, but mid-peak times, there's no parking. So,
Okay,
so
so we
I would
can
say
edit that one.
that really needs, would seem to be solvable, I would think, especially looking at some of those other spaces that might be available. But yes, the parking is really bad. And then, of course, there's a few events like the Mary Nutter, which I don't know how you even scale for that, but you know, that,
Managed parking.
yeah, that fills up the whole region. But even just on a normal day when there's games going on there in particular, or sometimes even if there's just a high school event going on that's large, that it can spill over. So the parking would definitely need to be addressed.
Okay, great suggestions. Pretty much as we look down the rest of the criteria, just from the map, you can see it's probably one of the more centrally located. Libraries have a lot of the same criteria as community centers, recreation centers in terms of location. So I imagine prior to locating that building, a similar analysis was done for that facility. So you can see we do check a lot of the boxes. And so noted that we will address our evaluation of the site in regards to parking. The next option, we have option number 5, which is the site across from the Salvation Army. And as we mentioned before, it is actually 2 parcels. There's a north parcel that's 3.5 acres, and the south parcel is 2.3, almost 2.4 acres. It is city-owned. Let's see, in terms of capacity, we've got the site, we've got the building, we've got potential for future expansion. The zoning does allow the community center. So as we look at cost, we don't have any dollar signs for land. We have the infrastructure for, just because it is an undeveloped site. So we have the infrastructure that need to be provided, as well as the building for construction cost. Accessibility, it is noted that it is not as centrally located, so we've gotten a gold color for that. Biking and walking, not as ideal, noted as gold. Public transit, the nearest bus stop is a half mile away.
So let me just put a little asterisk on that one, because when they built the Veterans Village, which is right there, right next to it, Sunline, part of the deal was Sunline was supposed to be evaluating their public transit and perhaps adding a stop. And I know when I was on Sunline, part of the issue was they wanted to abandon one of their other lines that was heavily used and then replace that one. So I had anticipated, I'm not on the Sunline, our representative anymore, and she's not here, but that is very fixable and probably needs to be fixed anyways, because I was under the impression that that was one of the criteria for that Veterans Village. So just
we'll
wanted
look
to note
into
that.
Yes.
And one of the conditions they have now, they just have the veterans they have a sun ride service where they could call ahead of time. But that becomes difficult, especially, if you're not a big planner.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not
Okay.
accessible.
Yeah,
But that's a good point.
The bus system here is a joint powers, and we're part of that. And so that's something that, like I say, a few years ago, when I was more actively involved, was on the menu of things to address. So I'm sure it's probably still there.
Okay, so we can definitely investigate that. One of the things we had for economic impact is that these sites had been identified for affordable housing. And so we had put a negative, if we use it for this, then it takes away that opportunity. And then schools, it is near the schools, no commercial areas nearby, so we have the orange. Park and rec opportunities, it's near the Salvation Army. Residential, it's a little bit embedded in the residential area and not quite as on a major thoroughfare or centrally located, so we gave it a gold. And then there is sufficient capacity for good outdoor amenities, so we gave it a green. Okay, and then we have the site across from City Hall. It is a city-owned site. And Surplus Land Act has identified that site for the city, I guess. It has almost 4.5 acres, so more than what we would anticipate needing. We've got it green for capacity for site building, future expansion, as well as zoning. City-owned land, so no dollar signs. Infrastructure, it's undeveloped, so $3 signs. Construction cost, no building, so $3 signs to build. Accessibility, centrally located for easy for driving, biking and walking. It is on a future proposed bikeway, so we gave it a gold. Public transit, good access, economic impact. Again, we kind of put gold on this. It could be, it's a large enough site where it could be joint use. And we are seeing community centers, public facilities be co-located with housing and joint use development. So not sure if it takes away that opportunity or just creates it more complicated, but we did make it gold. Schools, it seems to be far from schools. Commercial got green, park and rec opportunity near the senior center got green. Again, residential near the Cove community and future developments, but a little bit distance from existing residential. And then outdoor amenities, a large enough site.
So did I hear you say centrally located in one
No,
of your things?
I said,
Okay. I thought you.
I
was
hope
part
I
of
didn't
the
say
driving
that.
or parking,
I said
maybe.
it's distance, I think, from current existing residential.
I see. All right.
I hope is what I said. Okay, no corrections there. And then the last site we had evaluated is what is identified as the Uptown Village site on Date Palm. It is a non-city-owned site. Again, available contingent on being purchased or leased. About 4 acres, plenty of space for the building, for future expansion. It would have, this is the one that the zoning would have to be amended, but planning indicates that that would not be a challenge that we couldn't overcome. Land cost, infrastructure and construction costs, all $3 signs.
I believe that, did we approve an apartment complex on that property?
Yeah, can we?
It would be further
What
north.
exactly are we talking about here? Date Palm and what? Because some of the photographs.
So north of this would be the Wren, and then south of this would be the proposed indoor storage facility.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the,
So I thought there was talk that that was going to be some kind of a shopping center in there. Is that what we're talking about? This would be there instead of that shopping center that was, okay. All right. Thank you. So this is very near the church property that
yes.
was being
Okay,
referred
good.
to before. So.
Thank you. And then for the accessibility, driving was good. The biking and walking, no existing sidewalk or bikeway, future plan exists. Public transit, yes. Economic impact is alignment with the area development plans. Schools, good proximity. Commercial, good proximity. Not so good for parks and rec opportunities because no existing parks or recs in the area. Residential, it's near the north residential area and affordable apartments, but not central to the entire city.
So again, I find that color coding interesting when you looked at your map where the density is, that some of these areas that are farther south, you're saying are more centrally located, and some of the ones that are farther north
Are we?
are not
Well,
centrally located.
I
So,
hope we were consistent, but we will double check because I
Okay.
think
well, we have this perception in the city that the center of the city is somewhere around City Hall. And as I love to say, well, you have 5 council districts that are all supposed to be about equal, right? 2 of those are completely north of Ramon, so there's 40%. A big part of another one, District 3, is north of Ramon, and even part of District 1 is part of Ramon. So how can where the city hall is, or even where Gerald Ford is, how can that be anywhere near the center of the city?
Yeah, no, you can
When it
kind of
comes to
see
population.
just as we look at the population map, like where your population density kind of centers itself.
Yes, and I see very dense right at the north part, and then of course we'll eventually have north of the freeway with development,
Yeah,
and then a lot of this other part is dirt, that tribal, that may eventually be development, but not so much in the southern part, just
Yeah.
because it's already
the
built up.
mountains and the geographical,
Right,
yeah. boundary.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out because
No,
when I
and
see
we'll-
the color, I'm like, really? That seems more central than some of the other ones, especially if you're looking at 40 or 50
We'll
years.
summarize them all together at the end, and we can make additional corrections
Right.
there. Thank you.
Well, I know a lot of this is just, it's a little turn of art, or how you're looking at it, and if you're looking distance, or you're looking population density, if you're looking now, if you're looking
Yeah.
future, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of the information, like we did the walkability, there's software you can put in for walkability, bikeability, and it gives you ratings and stuff, and so we were using that tool as well, and they may not be current as well. So that's why it's always good to have this good check and additional input.
And for site number 7, I would probably talk to our planning and also engineering department to see where we're at, if we are going through, or the owners of that property are going through the apartment complex that we approved in the past. If that's the case, this one you can just erase this one out from list.
This is south of the apartment complex. This is not utilizing the land that's going to be operated by the Wren.
Yeah, so if you remember in that discussion, if you go from south to north, it was a storage facility, and then there was a shopping center, and then there was like a strip mall center, that type of thing, and then there was the Wren right there. So this would be in place of the strip mall center that was going to be in there. They're looking at that property.
Oh, okay.
South of Rosemount, right, because that's where the Wren
Rosemount
would
Storage.
serve. Yeah. Right. So I'm with you, because in my mind, that was all planned for development and moving along, and approved, I believe, to a certain degree. And so when we see this, like it's a vacant parcel, it's like, where is it? So, yeah.
Okay.
And I had a question. When it says contingent on parcel being purchased or leased, so does the current owner know that this process is taking place?
No. So we have not, certainly at this stage, we have not contacted any property owner to discuss, purchases or lease or anything of that nature. We're very too preliminary to try to reach that out, and certainly not in a good bargaining position to do that at this point.
So what this is just your preliminary presentation to us to tell you your initial overview of what the status of the city is and the viability of these different options. Okay, I just didn't know how far.
Yeah, and from today, it would be nice with the additional sites included to narrow this down, right? I mean, we really want to dive into the focused ones and try and get additional detail so you can
Right.
evaluate the viability, but trying to develop all that detail for 7, now potentially 9 sites is probably not money well spent. And so narrowing down this to the top 2 or 3
I
in
see.
addition to the additional ones we can get information on would be the goal.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So there's going to be a test on this spreadsheet. No, I wouldn't do that. This is a lot of detail. And this really, if you look at the bottom line of this, and I don't know that you even have large enough glasses to look at the bottom line, but what we did with your city department's help, we took lease cost, triple net lease. We looked at that triple lease for 30 and 50 years. We used the 30-year cost. We did escalate it 1% per year, and we developed it into a cost per square footage over those 30 years. And then we have, as I mentioned, there's moderate renovation and major renovation. And so really just trying to give broad level information on what is the relative cost of these different options to each other per square footage. As we look at the first three columns, those are all non-city owned sites. So for the moderate renovation, the major renovation, and the new construction for non-city owned sites, we have a range in cost, and that's because, again, we don't have the detail to hone in to a specific number yet. But as we're looking at moderate renovation, dollars per square foot for 30 years is a range of $1,400 to say $1,800 a square foot. As we look at major renovation for non-city owned sites, it's $1,700 to $2,300 a square foot. And there's contingencies on here. These are comprehensive costs that include soft costs, hard costs, furnitures, equipment, real good budget numbers to start from, but they'll all get defined and refined as we get closer to a single option. New construction on a non-city owned site is 3,500 to 4,000 square feet. And then the last two columns are about city-owned sites. So new construction on a city-owned site is 1,300 to 1,500 square feet. Renovation on a city-owned site is about $680 to $1,000 a square foot. And so you can see, just once we put the land cost in there, either purchasing the land and when we did the purchase, I should say, we purchased a site for $3,500 to $4 million. And that was based on the listing of a comparable site of the appropriate 2.5 acres size that we looked at.
Don, excuse me, wouldn't that, with on the new construction, with potential purchase cost of 3.5 or 4 million, wouldn't that raise the square footage price up to build that?
So it did.
Or you're just talking construction, because it seems,
No.
maybe I'm reading this wrong. It's new construction versus new construction city-owned is the same.
Correct.
But we haven't purchased the land yet. What am I missing here?
It looks like you're right, but then the next part under is for the purchase of the land, and you'll see under the city-owned, there is nothing there because we already have the land.
So the new construction cost would be the same whether it was city-owned land or not city-owned.
Plus
it's just the additional 3.5 to 4 million for the purchase price.
Okay, I follow. I was combining the two together, the construction cost and the land cost. So I'm looking at it differently. All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I could have been clearer on that. My apologies. But I think the overall takeaway is if we look at the city-owned sites, when we have a new construction or a renovation, those numbers, as we're looking at the more expensive new construction on a city-owned site of $1,300 to $1,600, that is still lower than the moderate renovation of a lease or a purchase. So just trying to put it all in perspective here and not be specific to any site. Other potential funding, a lot of our clients or communities that we work with do find additional money to supplement city-provided money, and that can be through grants, Resiliency Resource Center. A lot of the projects we do, the photovoltaics, are actually coming from grants. as well as other opportunities. There had been a Park and Recreation statewide grant program that I think the city would have qualified well for. Unfortunately, I was just mentioning to Victor that expired last year. So that was unfortunate. The environmental fund has been identified as a potential funding source, and then public-private partner or public-public partnerships. Some of our communities have actually partnered even like with the Boys and Girls Club to do a gym. And so it just depends on safety, security, and operational models. And then almost all of our projects do have some kind of philanthropy, a donor program, foundations that try and help fundraise funds for them as well. I will continue and can supplement other cost analysis considerations that we developed with your finance director and with Anne, talk about review potential sites based on financial capacity. Land acquisition and building costs may be too cost prohibitive. With budgetary constraints, a city-owned site may be more economically feasible. Ultimately, need for square footage cannot be met with your Measure W funds. Consider potential for future phasing or expansion. And for land acquisition or lease costs, you need to consider the covenants, the conditions and restrictions, outdoor space opportunities. It's been noted here the Walmart site is in the due diligence process.
And that was what has just recently changed. They were in that, and then we're not able to come to terms for pricing.
And then it was noted that the library site is a great central location, city-owned land and building. The library had indicated they could operate with less square footage. Exactly how much less and how much could partner with the community center, recreation center, we could further evaluate in the next phase. Big League Dreams operator is pursuing a partnership with another vendor specializing in national level individual player showcases and team tournaments. I believe that's underway.
That was a conversation that finance had recently with Big League Dreams, so that might provide opportunities, but also might also add to the problem with the parking situation for that particular site. If they do more programming and more tournaments and more activities, the sort of challenges we currently have with parking will probably be exacerbated because of that.
Would some of that come back in front of the city with us evaluating in some type of a environmental process what type of parking that they would have? So they may have to build additional parking, build up, something like that, maybe that we would partner with.
I'm looking at the
just
finance
something they
director
could
because
just-
I don't know exactly he's the most familiar with the terms of the agreement with Big League Dreams for that site.
So it's noted Big League Dreams is planning on possibly doing some type of partnership and expansion, at least expansion of what their offerings are. Is that something that they're going to be able to do without coming back to the city for permission and with some evaluation of the parking impacts?
Yes and no, sir. So, good afternoon, Council. With respect to Big League Dreams and their original tranche of funding with the new agreement in 2021, they're looking at a second tranche of funding because for their 9 sites, they're way underfunded. And so we're not the only ones that have had difficulties with the current operators. So they are entertaining an agreement to bring another tranche of funding in that ties back to what you see with a Mary Nutter once a year. They would look to potentially have 8 of those type events throughout the year based on our weather and based on our climate. So there's probably an opportunity there. Tied to that, with respect to that tranche of funding, just like they owe us on their agreement, they owe all of the various 9 sites that they have because they pay us quarterly, but they haven't been paying us quarterly, and they're well aware of that. And that ties back to that 5-year agreement when I raised my hand earlier, that we're under agreement with them until 2030. So they're still in the due diligence with that vendor. We met a representative from the Big League Dreams Group and 2 representatives from that vendor 3 weeks ago now, and they're in that due diligence phase for that potential opportunity for funding. under their current agreement, they're on the docket for the parking lot, and they're aware of that. So tied to if they would want to do anything from an expansion of that, yes, that portion would come back to the city. And part of what Dawn and company have done with their analysis is looking at that campus that's out there of the library to include the Patriot Park as you go down and all the way over, and then over on the north side from the library that butts up against, across from the Postal Center, to tie back to potentially a lot of parking, and that would all come back to us from a planning standpoint. And you all would be able to assess that and approve that. We would go through the process internally for that.
It just seems that, 5 years is not very long in this process, and if we're coming to the end of their agreement and need to kind of reevaluate the future of that whole site. I mean, we certainly want them to succeed. It's very exciting that the prospect of more use of that, like the Mary Nutter, in the sense of what it brings to the city as far as people coming and buying and using our restaurants and those types of things. But they're fully aware that parking is a big issue too. So
Correct.
It would seem to me that we would want to have that as part of our discussions with them about, well, how can we mutually, especially if we decide to use the site, how can we mutually solve the parking issue so that you can have these big tournaments and not cause problems at their facility or any other facilities that we operate in the area.
And like what you find at other kinds of events, whether here or elsewhere, I think of film festival type events as well, a partnership with the Unified School District because of the parking lot that's not too far away, and you can offer
Yes.
shuttle services and that type of thing. That would be an opportunity to bring people back and forth and not necessarily just rely on our land and our parking lot or the expansion of the parking lot to do away with some of the existing land.
Okay, well, that's why, I know for me, that's why I was asking, because when you mentioned that, I'm thinking, well, we're not just going to sit there quietly and have them do this major expansion, and then
Not
and
address
as far
the
as they
problem.
feel about parking being, well, people will just have to figure that out. At some point, and it sounds like we probably should be doing this anyways, but especially if we're looking at maybe expanding some facilities there, that there needs to be a more comprehensive look at, well, what are the parking needs? And like you said, for big events, can you have shuttles? Where for daily events or normal weekends, what do we, all of us, mutually need there, and try to work with them.
And I think that's, as we consider all of the sites, the conversation that Kevin had with Big League Dreams kind of came in the middle of this too. So that, again, creates, another opportunity as well as challenges. And we'll continue to pursue all of those avenues as we evaluate all of these sites for the council's consideration. While Kevin was up here, though, I wanted to see if he could just spend a couple minutes about how far the Measure W funds get us. As we talked about, or is there a slide for it?
There is the next
Okay.
slide.
Okay.
If Dawn's okay with that, I was just asking her permission to be able to go there.
Because I think as we were talking about, and as Dawn had put in the earlier slide, that getting to the point that, it's not a PowerPoint, Kev.
Are you doing that?
That Measure W gets us part of the way, but depending on the size of the facility, depending on whether we do a rehab or new construction, depending on if it's city-owned or not city-owned, our funding, the $1 million that we anticipate receiving from Measure W that we're going to set aside for sort of the debt service for a new facility. Kevin did some analysis of that and spoke to our bound counsel and kind of gave us kind of like where we sit today, what that might look like.
So in coordinating with our bond team, and we've been to you all before with respect to our bond refundings that we've done before and that type of thing. For this opportunity, the original vision of the 0.5% Measure W was 5 pillars. And 2 of those pillars tied to the community center, $1 million to operate the community center and $1 million for potential debt service, being 2 of those 5 pillars. So if you look at approximately $10 million from our Measure B, our 1%, which then gets us about $5 million for the new Measure W as a forecasted budget or plan, then you're looking at $2 million. If we set aside that $1 million for community center operations, and then the $1 million for debt service, in today's current market, and the market is getting better, because when the initial conversation with the bond team 4 weeks ago was, it got better from then till now. And so we're hoping that what's going on in the outside world in the financial markets, it could even get better for us as we see interest rates potentially coming down, that type of thing. So what we're looking at is, for a 20-year bond debt, we're looking at about $13 million for $1 million of debt service every year for that 20 years. And you might turn around and say, well, Kevin, why 20 years? You know, a lot of people look at a 30-year mortgage, and some of our previous bonds have been 30 years. Well, guess what? In the current marketplace, for 30 years, it only garners us another $2.5 million. So you weigh 20 years, 13 million, versus 30 years and $15.5 million. And to spend another $10 million to get $2.5 million, it just doesn't appear to make financial sense.
So the $1 million is our mortgage payment on 13 million.
If we, to be able to go out,
Is that
and
what
yes,
that's
ma'am,
saying?
go out and do a bond
Okay.
on a city debt that would garner $13 million net to the city after the initial costs, the financing costs. And then that would become our monies that would come in that would be able to go towards one of these 7, or I'm hearing potentially 9 options, because 2 additional options have been brought up tonight or this afternoon. So yes, ma'am, that's exactly what it would be. Then on the previous slide, that Dawn had up there could be other opportunities. Depending upon life in the universe, we might be able to leverage, like we do, like in Esperanza Park, we leverage the opportunity for environmental friendly types accoutrements, upfitting. So there may be something to partner there with respect to the public works folks and our environmental conservation manager.
Yeah.
Other opportunities could also be, if you remember what we have out there with our impact fees, that could be an opportunity, because from an impact fee standpoint, that we implemented the new impact fees, or the increased impact fees, in January of 2024, and I'll be coming to you in the next council meeting in October, and we'll be doing this. Yes, the next council meeting in October, the second council meeting, and doing the preliminary financial results. We'll have the fund balances for all of those impact fees as of June 30th, so that you'll get a flavor of whether it's for general government facilities. There could be a potential wing or annex as part of this opportunity for a community center, for a police room, a fire room we could leverage, because in this day and age, you want that security aspect in a community center. So we may be able to leverage the police facilities impact fee fund, the fire impact fee fund. So there could be other opportunities in addition to what Dawn had up there with grants or that type of thing. So the 13 million could be the starting point.
And I was going to say, when you talked about police facility, are you talking like a substation? I saw that Palm Springs opened
I'm
up
talking a
substation.
room.
Okay.
I'm talking, and also how you might equip the facility to be more ultra sensitive to police public safety needs or fire public safety needs. Not a substation necessarily, but that would be something that could be considered depending upon the floor plate in that. But there's monies there. But what we're talking incrementally adding. If you're starting at a base of 13 million, maybe finding $1 million here or possibly finding $1 million there. We're not talking a lot in the end. Now, another thing that could happen is if 13 million is garnered for 1 million of debt service from Measure W, potentially there could be an evaluation done. Would we entertain as a city $2 million worth of debt service? And if we entertain $2 million worth of debt service, that other $1 million of debt service could come from the general fund.
But again, we're very preliminary at this point.
Very much so. These
But-
are just options, and that's what this slide ties
Yeah.
back to.
And really just wanted to give you a sense of what that $1 million from Measure W kind of gets us, or where that gets us to the starting point. And so and I appreciate Don sort of giving that question of, because I think for our community, I think for all of us, we have Cadillac desires for this, but what is our realistic budget? And so as we get to narrow this down, then I think we really do have those opportunities to narrow down, again, are there other private partnerships, public partnerships, grant opportunities, other funding sources that the city has to really find the right financial backing needed to move this project forward. And then also scaling. So can we afford a 20,000 square foot facility up front? Maybe we have to wait to do, the 45,000 square foot facility, but we wanted to try to build what the realistic budget picture was so that we can, as we narrow this down, as we come up with probably the top 2 or 3 options for the council to consider, that we have kind of a clear picture of what all of those different sources might be. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. Not wanting to take more time with this, but are there any other slides or just questions from the council or other direction that you'd like to provide us as we're continuing on? We have captured the additional sites that you wanted us to look at. We will continue the discussions with Big League Dreams to kind of understand and sort of part to this, but also separate from this, what that impact might be. But is there anything else that you'd like to share with us as we continue forward on?
Councilmember
A
Carnevale?
comment and probably a question here. Wow, what a great job. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff here. I had no idea it was this depth. If I could just take one of every spot and put it together, it'd be perfect. But when I see one area where I think it really works out well, where there's no parking. Then I look at another area, well, it's not really conducive for local businesses. They're too far out. So I know we got a lot of more work to do. So I would just request, look at the ideas that council, requested earlier today, and then come back and see where we can go. But this is going to be one really tough decision, because we get one bite of the apple here, and we want it to be perfect and right and benefiting the city for years and years to come. This is really huge. So.
And have we gotten a copy of this, or did I?
I will provide copies to all the council.
I'd love
Yeah.
to study it a little bit more.
So-
It was getting revised as we were getting into the agenda publication, so I didn't include it as part of the agenda packet. But following this meeting, we will get you all copies of this presentation.
So Don, when will we see you again or hear from you again? What's the next step?
I was looking for the schedule. We will come back to the council probably in the December timeframe, I think, and certainly if we get any additional information about the sites that were recommended, if they're viable to work with or if there's challenges, I'll let the council know that in advance. But we're going to continue to refine these sites. We'll do an additional round of community outreach, and then it'll probably be in January versus December, since we're down to one meeting in December. Come back to the council with sort of the more directed recommendations of which facilities seem to be the most viable, and then seek the council's input on which direction you would like staff to pursue.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, good. Anything else from council? Do we have any public comments?
Mayor Pro Tem, I did not receive any request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, well, go ahead and move along. We have a couple more items on our study session. We do have a closed session item. Our next item is Capital Improvement Program and Pavement Management Program Update. City Manager.
Council members, our city engineer is going to be making this presentation to you. This is to provide you with an update on where we are in our pavement management plan. As you know, the staff have brought you conducted the study to get kind of the baseline of where we're at. And Armando Baldazone is going to talk to you about where that investment has gone, what's the current status of our pavement management plan, and future projects that are planned in this budget cycle.
Thank you for the presentation. Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. This is an update on the capital improvement program and the payment management program. So this presentation aligns with the 5-year strategic plan or with the Goal B community investment. So the agenda today provides a semi-annual update of the capital improvement program that was updated in April of 2025, and the payment management program that since the last review was when it was implemented in June 2023. A little background: the capital improvement program is our strategic tool to prioritize and budget street projects based on the community need and available resources, and the 5-year plan adopted in 2025 include planned projects from 2025 to 2030. The payment management program is the tool that we use to develop the 5-year capital improvement program, evaluates road conditions, and provide a guide for cost-effective maintenance priorities. The payment management program was implemented in 2023. The evaluation of the street was done using a software, the Street Saver. We analyzed 157 miles of roadway and divided them into approximately 1,400 payment management segments. The classification of the streets, arterial, collector, and residential streets, make up to the 100% of the city roadway network. Just to recap, the payment condition index is that rating that you see in every street project, and that gave us an idea of the maintenance strategies that we need to use for that street. When it was implemented in 2023, the payment management program provided us with a citywide PCI of 64, considered that the city was in a fair condition. Also, the payment management program provided 3 scenarios that illustrate how the city would be impacted over the next 5 years, and understanding what is the long-term impact and funding decisions. At that moment, they provided 3 budget scenarios. One was maintaining the $2 million per year that the city was investment, that the PCI will drop. The other one was doing an annual investment between $2 million and $12 million to hold the PCI, and then between $12 million and $15 million to provide improvements in the overall network condition. So since 2023, the city invested $12.9 million in roadway improvements. That's approximately 17% of the roadway infrastructure that we have. 3.1 million were invested on maintenance effort like slurry seal or crack sealing, and 9.8 million were on rehabilitation and reconstruction. Now, from these $12.9 million, $3.7 million is the average annual investment on ongoing funding for streets. So that these $3.7 million does not include this $5.4 million that they were used for specific or one-time funding sources. And also, in the last 2 years, we used Measure 8 and assessment districts that they were the major revenue funding sources for the street projects that we did in the last 2 years. We also use CDBG fund for low and moderate income areas that we use for public improvements. So in the last 10 years, these are the big picture of the completed projects in the last 10 years, and we divide it into 4 areas. The north area, from north of Vistachino and the northern city limits, you can see the improvements that were done in the last 10 years. Then we move south to the area north of Ramon, south of Vistachino, where there were improvements in Ramon Road. There were some improvements in the Dreams Home area. There were improvements in residential areas. moving south to between Ramon and Gerald Ford, there are some improvements there on Daypalm Drive, also on Dinosaur. And in the south side of the city, from Gerald Ford to the South City limits, the improvements were done in East Palm Canyon, Cathedral Canyon, and also in the Cove area. When we finish all this project, we update that software that we have, the Street Savers. So an update of the program management is like, as of September, when we were doing this report, the software indicates that our PCI was 61. So it's
going the wrong way.
it's a decline from the 64. But that decline is related to three things. The first thing is when we do a reconstruction of the street, so when we put new asphalt in a street, the asphalt deteriorates really fast for the first 12 months and then stabilizes and continues at the low level of deterioration for 75% of the lifetime of the asphalt. When we do the rehabilitation, when we do RIAS, crack seal, that would not put us at 100% of the street. That the maintenance effort that will be to maintain the street at the level that it was, a little higher because it's a little. And the third point to understand this decline is that the PCI, the overall PCI, is weighted on surface. So we were doing streets that they have a small surface of asphalt. The only big one, the last big one in the last 2 years was Daypalm from Dinosaur to Ramon. So that's the biggest amount of surface that we have. All the other projects were small projects. So surface-wise, it's like we're improving, but doesn't reflect in the PCI. And also the PCI will not increase from overnight. That's the real thing on why would the PCI was declined. So for the next 5 years, the 5-year CIP identifies the upcoming roadway projects. We have program investment for fiscal year 25 and 25-26 and 26-27. These investments that we identified, they are 3.4 million for fiscal year 25-26 and 3.8 million for fiscal year 26-27. And this is because Measure W is helping to maintain the level of investment that we did in the last year. So the upcoming roadway projects, maintenance and roadway improvements are presented here as in the big plan, and they are separated in 4 areas. Again, north of Vista Chino, we can see Daypalm, Edom Hill, and Barnett Road, and some improvements in Avenida Quintana, some improvements in Vista Chino. For the section between north of Ramon and south of Vista Chino, we have improvements on Daypalm, we have improvements on Quintana. Some of these improvements, you can see that they are unfunded yet in the CIP, like Landau Boulevard, and then there's some improvements in residential areas like in the Dreams Home area. Between south of Ramon and north of Gerald Ford, there are some improvements in residential areas and also some that are planned improvements. And in the south section, we have improvements, probably the RIAS in the area of the Cove, done in 27-28 or projected for 27-28 and the fiscal year 29-30. In conclusion, we are making a steady progress improving and maintaining the roadway network. The payment management program and the 5-year CIP provide a data-driven framework. We evaluate and do the prioritization of long-term strategies. We update our payment management database with the latest payment conditions and complete the project information. And Measure W, the revenue, provides a new funding source that will allow the city to maintain our current level of funding in $3.8 million and replaces the diminishing fundings like Measure A and assessment districts that we were using to improve the streets. So that concludes my report, Mayor. Back to you.
Thank you so much. Council, questions?
When you mentioned that the management system, the payment management system is updated, how often is it updated? Is it updated a week or a month or 6 months after work has been done to certain streets?
As soon as we have the notice of completion for every project, the project manager needs to update the system. So whatever is the segment of the street that we fix, that we reconstruct or we maintain, immediately after the construction is done, we update that thing to bring the streets to the new condition.
Now, when you do just a slurry seal, what condition does that raise it to?
Probably, I will tell you, do you remember that graph with the PCI that is,
Yes.
okay, between 50 and 70? Okay, the RIAs will update the project are around 7 or 8 points, not getting to 100 points. So if you are in 73, you do the RIAs, you're going to get to 80, 79, 81, in that range, depending on what was the number there.
So 100% only if it's torn away and rebuilt completely?
Because what?
To get to 100% is only when it's completely removed and rebuilt?
Yes, and understand that as soon as we rebuild it, for the first 12 months, you're going to have the 100% probably a few days, and it's going to drop until 90 or 89 in the first 12 months, and then it's going to be steady all the way for a steady.
As soon as the first car drives on it, it lost a few
It
points,
lost
right?
a
It
lot,
got
yeah.
dirt on it, and
It's the
now it's a
same-
98 instead
Kind of the
Like a
same
new
as
car.
kind of the same as buying a new car. You buy a new car, you put it in the street, you lost 20%. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there any evaluation, so you update it when you do work on a roadway or even slurries or any of those type of things. Is there any evaluation of, or updated evaluation on the existing streets? Or is it just assumed they'll all kind of wear in the same manner?
No, they cannot wear the same manner because they have the assessment that they have when we did the payment management
Yes. I know
program.
they did all the streets then.
They did it in all the streets. So they, at that moment, they determined if a street was in a fair condition, or it was in a very poor condition, or it was in a very good condition.
So, but as years go by, you update the streets that you work on. Well, what about the other streets that are maybe
They
10 years out?
Well, the streets, the payment continue, the streets that we don't touch, they are continue deteriorating. And if they are, if they are in the range that they were fair, they will continue fair for some time.
So does your
And as soon
software
as
kind
the-
of assume that, that if it's fair here and we haven't done anything to it in a few years, it's going to lose some points, or how does that
Yes,
work?
it's gonna lose some points, and it's also considering the deterioration according to the traffic, according to weather conditions, and
Correct.
according to those things.
So do you go then and update, say, or do we have to do, after a number of years, have that company come do a full evaluation?
Usually it's recommended to do a big update every 5
Oh,
years.
okay. And that
Yeah.
makes sense because it doesn't seem every street would wear the same, just like you're saying.
Well-
If a water runs across there or it's, then maybe it deteriorates a lot faster or it gets a lot more traffic. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Did you have questions?
I just had a comment because it was just, I really didn't have an appreciation for how much it costs to repair roads. And when I saw this in first, but to see this in analysis now, it says maintenance and rehab completed since the implementation of the pavement management plan. And it says the Date Palm pavement rehabilitation, and that was following Tropical Storm Hillary, and the cost to redo that area was $4,870,000. And it's just stunning to realize that the cost of redoing this, and I'm pretty cavalier when I drive around and I see new roads, and I'm complaining about going down to one lane, and having to spend a little more time in traffic. The cost and the burden to the different cities and municipalities that do that for us, and that's our job, but the cost is really prohibitive. It's amazing. So anyway, thank you.
Thank
I had
you.
no idea.
I think your comment's well taken. Actually, I don't think we've done the part was affected by Hillary yet. That was actually, that 4 million. That part there is the part that the tribal money was used for. That, yes. So, but I'm sure the next section will cost at least as much, so.
The next section, the schedule, the projected cost is funded with federal highway
Yeah.
in one section, and the other part is listed in the program, is listed in the capital improvement programs, and there is some part that is unfunded yet.
Yeah. But your point is correct. It is very expensive, yes. All right. Anyone else? Public comment. Do we have anyone in the public wish to comment on this item?
Mayor Pro Tem, I did not receive any request to speak forms. If you're a member of the public and you wish to comment on this item, please raise your hand. And I see none, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for that presentation. All right. We'll move on to the next item, which is our wayfinding signage update. City Manager.
Mayor Pro Tem, Brian Hunt is going to make this presentation to you to give you an update on the final design for the Wayfair signage. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it. Thank you, City Manager. Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, good to be with you to talk about the wayfinding signage update. Wanted to give a shout out to the Economic Development Team. Eric Becerril's here, Victor Gomez, who I think snuck out. I know he's with the group that was presenting on the feasibility study, but really it's been a group effort between communications and events and economic development. It's been quite some time since we've updated these, 2016. So I think I only have one of the older platforms that are still standing, but we're not going to have to, I don't think, redo all of these completely. It'll be kind of a new paint job, some new colors. It always struck me that, we don't really have a branding identification on the signage. Blue's not really one of our colors, neither is pink. So, getting a little bit closer to our orange, and then obviously stay tuned. I'll be giving you an update, I'm sure, on our new website design as well. We found a really nice adoption of this kind of cream sand color with the orange, so I hope you like it. Strategic plan goals, just quickly, Action B7, which is a direct strategic plan goal, which is to improve wayfinding signage. That's what we're here to talk about. But also, hopefully, with some of the new designs, we can get into how it embraces an inclusive community, and that's Action F3 as well. So why update now? Well, the original installation was 2016. You can see there it's pretty faded. The blues hung on pretty well. We also noticed some of the text was a little limiting with how we've evolved as a community. I think there's more specific venues that we have available to promote. So we've seen significant city growth, and that's through your all's leadership as a city council. We've seen a lot of new destinations, a lot of new landmarks that we want to call greater attention to. And so need for more specific directional information. And then some of the generic terms, I think, need to be replaced with actual destination names. We haven't been in consult with legal about what we can do, what we can't do. If there's a non-competing venue of an institution, like when we call it Big League Dreams Sports Park, well, there is no other Big League Dreams in Cathedral City. So being a little bit more specific there, and I'll get to the language here in just a bit. I wish I had a little bit more higher definition map for you, but we're going to start phase one with kind of the downtown Perez area, and then we're going to move our way through the entire community. There's a lot, so we think this will be a 4-phase project. So we're going to start kind of towards the downtown Perez area there towards the bottom of your screen, and then kind of move our way back, Day Palm and a few others that'll be worked in. So the new design features, we went back and forth a lot with the designers. The color scheme was, we were very particular about wanting something that was not, kind of a color that didn't identify with our brand. So we went with kind of a warm desert orange, which is kind of the color that you see everywhere. The cream accent color for contrast, and it kind of reflects the desert environment and creates, what I think is hopefully a recognizable identity for Cathedral City with, kind of this elegant experience. And you'll see the different watermarks on all of these slides. I just kind of put them all in there for you as the complimentary photos for each one, but I'll get into specifics there as well. So we wanted to kind of, after brainstorming, we came up between ED and communications and events that it might be cool to highlight specific watermarks. And actually Matthew Levy and IT, kind of had that suggestion. We're working together on another project, but it's always nice when we get collaboration from staff and kind of said, what are you working on? And, kind of mentioned mentioned that watermark design might be kind of cool, and then we started getting into some brainstorming about, what is that for Cathedral City? And I think, as we do these, and continue to do more, I think we can add to this list. But we came up with the bell tower, the Fountain of Life, that should say folklorico dancers, their combination designs, fountain and balloon together. I'll show you a little bit of that. Lalo Guerrero statue, and obviously hot air balloons, which is our signature festival. So the sign specifications, pretty similar to what we have there now, a two-sided design with city logo and landmark watermarks on the back. You can see the Lalo Guerrero version there. Durable aluminum construction with graffiti-resistant laminate. We've been in touch with our facilities department as well, who has some expertise in some of the materials that might be a little bit longer lasting. So the design concepts, just some more, there's the bell tower there, but we want kind of the front design to have that common, it looks very similar to what we have now, but I think more specific. So you can see Mary Pickford Theater there listed instead of theater. Senior Center had like a CTR kind of abbreviation. I feel like we can extend that to center, just little things. The Cathedral Cove Center, and then we'll also work in the community amphitheater into our signage as well. We think that's been good, as well as Agua Caliente Casino and the new casino in downtown. So different landmarks, different variations we're exploring, and obviously I'm open to your feedback. We haven't gotten in the ground yet, so we certainly want to hear.
I was just wondering if you have put the fire departments, put their locations on any of the signage. So.
Oh, that's that for the new fire station. We will add that to the list.
Or if you move into the other part of the city, I don't know if you're going to have enough things to have signs, but some of those fire stations are not right on the main drags.
Absolutely.
And I think people would be looking for them. There are certain things that fire stations do. And
appreciate that
they're
feedback.
actually doing more car seats, those kind of things. So
we'll get that in there for sure. That's great, Mayor Pro Tem. Yeah, thank you for that. So what's new on the signs? I mentioned Senior Center, Big League Dreams. We're just going to go ahead and specify that instead of the generic sports park. Instead of Perez Corridor, the Perez Art District, and then dining and entertainment, not shop and dine, just little smaller variations. The individual theater names, CB Rep Theater, I think can go ahead and say CB Rep Theater. And then new destinations added, the amphitheater, Cathedral Cove Center, and then Agua Caliente Casinos. So our installation timeline, we hope to start this project in November. We've got the designers geared up. Everything's in the process of kind of the ordering and production. We hope to have it in time for the Balloon Festival for November 21st to the 23rd. And so we're pushing through to try to get this done as fast as we possibly can. You see another balloon variation there on your screen. But this is presented for information and discussion, although the feedback on the fire department, any of those type of ideas as we get kind of the final texting mapped out for that too. I would love to hear and your overall feedback of the designs as well. So I'll open it up to questions and discussion.
All right. Council, questions, comments? Councilmember Carnevale.
Thank you. I really like them. They're really nice. I like the colors and all.
Thank you, Councilmember.
And some of the designs are really great. I like the balloons. Is it too late to have another design made, or?
No, it's not. No, it is not.
I like the balloons. I just suggest maybe we get some Cathedral Mountains behind it.
Love it.
With the balloons and the Cathedral Mountains, because we're noted for those beautiful mountains here. So
Absolutely.
Just a suggestion, if it works fine.
No, we can work that in for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, same with the fire department suggestion. I'll take both those back to the designer.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes. Thank you for the presentation. So at this time, you're going to be working with a total of 6?
What's that?
You're going to be working with, you're going to be installing a total of 6?
It looks, I think we can get probably closer to 8 to 10 is my goal. 6 was preliminary, but as we kind of expand in the scope, they've mapped them out phase 1, and it's a little blurry between phase 1 and phase 2. So I think we can probably get a little bit more. We have had discussions about getting the cost down a little bit too. I would like to maximize in each phase as we possibly can. Otherwise, I'll be coming back to you for another biennial budget request for the phase 3 and phase 4. But, it's been since 2016, so I think we need to get started on kind of updating these. Some of them are in really deteriorated condition.
Now, we don't have any of these installed currently, correct?
Not to this design. We have them, so we'll be using the same location and landmarks as was in that map that I pulled up. So we'll be, these wayfinding signage exists, so we'll be updating the current wayfinding signage.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was looking at the height of them. I didn't realize the total height is going to be almost 14 feet.
Yeah, I think it was, here, I'll go to the dimensions. Yeah, 7 by 2.
Yeah, so it's good. 7.2 plus 6.8.
I believe the measurements are the same as what we have currently. I didn't ask them to modify the dimensions, so I can go back and clarify that. But they worked off of I mean, you can see the backs and the same structure, because we don't want to have to replace every single pole. That gets a lot more expensive. We think some of these can just be a rehab with a new sign facing and new painting. So trying to save costs there. So they won't all be completely new. Some of them will be refurbished from what we already have currently.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Councilmember.
I have no questions. I think it's great and needed. I wonder who was going to get to this. It was on your desk.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it, Councilmember.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank
Do we
you,
have
Mayor
any
Pro
public
Tem.
comments for this item?
Mayor Pro Tem, I have no request to speak forms, but if you're a member of the public and you wish to comment, please raise your hand. And I see none.
All right, well, thank you so much. Okay, well, so that is the last item on our regular study session calendar, so we're going to move into closed session. If I could ask do I call you interim? I'll just call you our city attorney, Stephanie Gutierrez, if you could please read us into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So we do have one item on closed session. It's public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B for the city manager position.
Thanks. Thank you so much. All right, we'll be recessing into closed session. Yeah. Well, yes. We shall wait for you.